2015, 2016, 2017, we were not brand forward as a company. Like, we had properties that were luxury, we had cabins, we had apartments, we had studios, we had, homes. And so we didn't have one brand that was our public facing brand across the board. What we did have was a bunch of unique properties that were good fits for certain things. And what I'll say in our direct booking strategy for our property management company was, we really looked at it as, well, we can't really buy ads sending people to our brand because it's not one thing, but where are we going to find people for these specific homes?
Before we bring on our guest, I wanted to talk just a little bit about something that I've been hearing a lot from hosts. I keep on hearing the same thing. I know my website isn't converting, but I can't afford $8,000 on an agency to rebuild it. Here's the thing. You're letting all these marketing strategies, you're driving traffic, and you're putting it all to work. But if your site isn't really built to convert, you're basically lighting your energy and money on fire. And even if you could afford an agency build, every time you want to test something or make a change, you're having to pay them again. You can't iterate, you can't test, and you really can't improve on things. You don't need a custom $10,000 website to get the conversion rates that really matter. You just need the right platform. That's why I built Craft to Stays. It's purpose-built for short-term rentals and designed from the ground up to help you drive more direct bookings. You can finally turn that traffic into bookings. And you can keep on testing and improving as you learn. You can make changes all on the platform. You don't need to learn something new. So if you need some help or you want to get started, go ahead and go to crafttostays.co and start your free trial. Now let's bring on our guests and dive deep into hospitality and marketing. Hey folks, welcome back to the Book Solid Show, the show where we bring in top operators to discuss hospitality, operations, and direct bookings. Today we have on the show Jeff from Host GPO. He walks us through furnishing that first rental in 2015 by taking a lease from a flipper that was renovating their property and was going through the permit process. He ended up growing his portfolio to 150 properties, and then he got really good at going through the onboarding process by going through 300 onboards, and why he started Host GPO in the first place. I love how Jeff has approached the opportunities that came before him. So without further ado, let's bring him in. Hey Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
Yeah. Jeff, kind of kick us off. I want you to kind of give us a rundown on who you are, what your journey has been, and why you decided to start Host GPO.
Yeah, I'm Jeff Iloulian. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Host GPO. And how did I get here? Well, I've been in the vacation rental industry for about 11 years. I was a lawyer before that and started with one property in 2015, grew my portfolio doing property management and a couple other deal structures, which we can get into if you're curious, but got to about 150 properties over a 5-year span and was managing, doing a little bit of lease arbitrage, doing some other types of deals. And ultimately, one of the biggest problems that I had was trying to figure out how to furnish these places and where to buy and restock all my supplies. So Host GPO came from that. It was me as an operator trying to figure out what the best linens were, where to get mattresses, how to get a discount on furniture, what types of furniture to buy, and banding people together into a buying group, a GPO, a group purchasing organization, to negotiate the guaranteed best pricing with all the different brands that we work with. So that's a quick background on kind of how Host GPO started and what it is.
Talk to me a bit about some of the early days there. So you mentioned you started this 11 years ago. So this is back, 2015 now?
2015, yeah.
What was kind of that growth like? How did you kind of start off in this, and kind of what that trajectory was like for you growing that portfolio and some of the things that you've learned that maybe started to seed the idea of Host GPO?
Yeah, so kind of out of the gate, the beginnings of my vacation rental business were I was living across the street from a great property in a really good neighborhood that in Los Angeles that a construction company and developer bought and was going to flip. And in Los Angeles, the permit cycle period takes about 12 to 18 months to get a permit to do a full kind of demolition and rebuild. And this was one of those situations where it was a great location, great property, but there was a lot more value by building a bigger house. And so the developer bought this property and they were going to leave it. It was just sitting there empty. And it was empty for like the first couple weeks and empty for the first month. And, ultimately I started talking to them and asked, what are you guys doing with this house in the meantime? And they were just going to leave it empty until they were going to do demolition. And I had just read an article in Deal Book from the New York Times, and a friend had posted it in 2015. And it was about lease arbitrage and people in New York doing renting places and re-renting them. It was really just about like the rise of Airbnbs and short-term rentals. And I hadn't really thought about this before, but it was right across the street from me. And I was thinking, if this is just going to sit empty, I wonder if I could talk to the construction company and developer and make a deal with them where they would let me pay them a very small amount and put furniture in and rent it out for the 18 months until they were ready to take it back. And they were thrilled to do this. So I told them, give me 30 days notice when you're ready to move back in. I set my booking window to 30 days out. And that's how my short-term rental industry journey began, was furnishing the property across the street from mine, welcoming every guest, shaking their hand when they got there, and then telling them all the places in my neighborhood that I like to go.
Gosh, it's a very interesting story and very, very creative. And I'm also thinking about logistically, the most painful part of, I think, managing a rental is getting it all set up. And you're doing this for such a short window.
100%. And like, that's honestly, to jump to the end, like that's how that's how I got really good at doing this. Is I managed a portfolio of 150 properties. That was when it was at its biggest, but I set up maybe 300 properties over that period of time because so many of them were like 1 year, 18 months. A lot of them lasted the whole time, but most of them were like very quick set up, tear down, set up, tear downs. And so I got really good at having a checklist of what's everything that needs to be in here, what are the right things to put in here, and a lot of wear and tear from moving and stuff like that too. So I did eventually get to doing property management when I had a team that was big enough, when we were about 30, 40 properties. And then we took on a bunch of other, a bunch of other assets like managing entire buildings. We got into the luxury space. We started doing, very, very large homes. But that's how I got started. Gosh,
you had a story where you had to buy furniture both from IKEA and other not so like not traditionally where you would buy a bulk of furniture. Talk to me a little bit about some of those stories.
Yeah, I mean, I was young and I was hustling and I was trying to be really, really smart with the pennies. And I was trying to figure out what is the cheapest stuff that I could put in here. Now, to be fair, this is me throwing myself under the bus because I have learned and I am on a mission to reform people from doing stuff like this. But it was a terrible thing to do. I was trying to figure out how to furnish. I had four units all side by side, and they all had like 2 or 3 or 4 duplexes up to 4plexes. And I was furnishing all 4 of them at the same time. It was, again, a construction company that had bought these units and they were going to build one big apartment building. So it was like a 18 to 24 month building that I was going to have access to. And it was right by a hospital and it was all vacant. And so I went to IKEA with my entire team. We were pretty big at that point. There were probably 12 of us. I went to IKEA with my team. Some of my friends, anybody that would give me the time of day. And we rented a U-Haul truck and we went to IKEA and we checked out with 48 shopping carts. And it was the line of the shopping carts wrapped all the way back into the store. The checkout process where they like scan the items, that alone took like 2.5 hours of just like, they had to clock somebody in and out to like, it was like shift change during the checkout. Anyways, we packed all this stuff.
What was that bill? Do you remember how much that bill was?
Yeah, it was big. It was like, I don't know. I want to say it was like 40,000, 30,000, something like that, which is a lot of IKEA stuff. But
okay. You didn't break 6 figures.
I didn't break 6 figures, but it wasn't everything. It was just like a lot of essentials. The craziest part, by the way, was maybe it was like a $40,000 bill, and I tried to ask if I could get a discount, and they laughed so hard. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, this isn't even like, this isn't even close to enough to like warrant even having a conversation about a discount. But all of that, all of that being said, threw all the stuff into a U-Haul, I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, I was an operations guy, but definitely not good enough. And drove the U-Haul there. By the time we got it there, by the way, side note, one of my employees who was driving the U-Haul that we rented, like, crashed into a car. So that ended up being a whole nightmare. But, this moment of arriving at the house and the sun has gone down and it's 7:30 p.m. and we opened up the back of the truck and it's like filled from like back all the way to the front with all the stuff and just this overwhelming feeling of being like, oh my gosh, like unpacking this, putting it into the units, and then building all of the furniture is going to take like a week at least. And then doing it and getting the units set up, they were awful. The units were terrible. They were so bad. All the furniture broke, it all chipped, all the stuff peeled up. And, that was a really big learning experience, among others. Going to outlets and driving and filling cars and going to flea markets. And, I did all of it at the beginning, Facebook Marketplace. But what I learned is the amount of time that it takes to do that, if you have it, is great. But you must be sitting on a lot of free time to do that. If you don't, you're wasting your time and you're actually spending a lot of money on paying people for their time, and you're not setting up the best version of the best product that's going to give you the best return. Now, there's a lot of reasons why those units did okay, but a lot of it just had to do with the fact that was 2016.
Yeah.
Airbnb was really booming as a booking channel, and the short-term rental industry, especially in places like Los Angeles, was on fire. And so you could do stuff like that. You could set up a real bootleg unit and charge, 30% less than what you should have been getting and undercut the market. And it was a strategy. It wasn't the best strategy, but that's kind of how I got started in the space.
Yeah, I imagine if you started that even 5 years later, you probably couldn't pull off what you did.
No,
well, 5 years later was probably during the pandemic, but pandemic aside, it would have been really challenging.
7 years later, I would have been okay for a minute, but yeah, that's not the world that it is anymore.
Yeah. Now it's a very different world, and it's probably a world that you probably thrive into now because the quality standard that you've learned along the way has gone. Like you just telling me that story of opening that truck, even before you mentioned that moment, I was like, I'm imagining your thumb and your index finger and how much pain it was from that Allen wrench wrenching all of that.
I mean, we had all there's like a adapter set of like IKEA power tools that you can like get there's like an IKEA kit you can power tool but it's not worth it, and it's just not the right way to do things for a million reasons, which I'm happy to kind of get into and talk about. But I wanted to find a better way. I wanted to find more cost-effective ways to get better quality furniture and better quality items, and that's kind of how Host GPO started to become an idea.
Yeah, and I imagine that IKEA was a combination of cost and accessibility. It was
Totally.
Something that you can actually go into and say, we're going to do one trip and we're going to knock it all out at once. So it was cheaper, but also it's local to you and has everything that you possibly could need. It has all your dishes, all your linens, everything is all there.
Yeah, I mean the hard part is that I learned that it is cheaper up front, but way more expensive in the long run for 1,000 reasons. Like breakage is so hard to replacing a bed frame that breaks in a short-term rental unit requires blocking off the day, ordering a new bed, losing a day or two of revenue, paying for junk removal, building the new bed, having to refund the guest that the bed broke on. That is way more expensive than buying the right bed frame at the beginning, not to mention it'll look better, your photos will look better, your unit will perform better because it'll book for higher ADRs because you have a better design and quality property. Like that alone just for furniture, and then you can do it for every single thing. Like you start buying, sheets from IKEA, and then you realize, one, they're terrible quality and guests aren't going to be happy. And, if you try to charge a high amount, they're going to be like, what am I paying for? But then two, You go back to IKEA down the road, which if you have to replace your sheets, you have to figure out if they still have them. Do they discontinue that line? They changed it. You mixed in some Sam's Club, you mixed in some Target, you mixed in some Costco, and now your bed looks like a cream pillowcase and a bright white sheet and a duvet, and it looks like all mixed up. And that creates a really terrible experience for a guest that shows up and they're like, ew, like what am I, like there's no standards here in this stay. It really doesn't create like a high level property.
Yeah, I think also like on the host or property management side of things, like it's hard for you to maintain all that. Like your cleaners are going to have to juggle and make sure that they're matching their sheets to the beddings and everything else. Like we've had to overhaul, like when we overhaul and we change looks, like we have to overhaul everything. We basically dump everything that we had before and refresh
Totally.
it.
And the right way to do it, which took a lot of time, and I've seen, and now we work with, we have over 300,000 properties that have signed up to be a part of Host GPO. So like I've seen a lot of the best operators and how they do it. They have set standards. They have decided what they are buying. They buy the same thing. If they're going to make a big overhaul, they're like, you know what? We're going to cycle out and we're going to change linens. We're going to do it 16 to 18 months out from now. They plan it in advance. They start buying inventory and they start cycling it in. But like that is even really complicated to do. But you figure out that there is contract grade furniture, there are commercial grade hospitality sheets, and they do things like have stain resistance and they're quick dry and they're meant, it's like what Marriott uses, and it's meant to go through the type of use that a short-term rental is going to have. Whereas, you have so much more turnover and so much more of an operational headache from a furniture and linen and all the rest of it, by doing it the wrong way or not choosing early on or being intentional early on.
Yeah. You're leading me down like several different paths of where I want to, the things I want to ask you.
Sure.
But kind of talking about one thing I'm starting to recognize is you're almost allowing folks to have that kind of hotel standard, like the things that you talk about, like cycling them out 18 months in advance. These are the type of operations that mature property managers that have a handful of doors, or is basically the status quo for any type of hotel operating out there. And so I'm thinking, on your side, is there education that you have to do to help folks, or are people already coming to you like, I actually need to step things up, and they're like, I need your help to execute on these things? Like, how much of it is convincing them like, hey, you've been doing it this way and you don't realize how bad it is? Or are they coming to you like, hey, I need to fix this and I need your help?
It's a good question. The only pushback I'll have is I don't think that I or anybody on our team feels like we have to do this. I think we look at it like we get to help people. And like, we're so excited about when you sign up for Host GPO and, even if you're just starting out with a free trial and all this stuff, like you get to talk to somebody from our team. And we really encourage people to take that time. And our team is full of experts that this is all they talk about and do all day. They've all been in the industry before. They've set up thousands of properties or helped people set up thousands of properties. And we get to work with people on answering these questions, like what are your pain points? What are you running into? How are you doing things? And then we get the privilege of being able to educate and help the industry, which is something that I'm super passionate about. It's something our team is super passionate about. And we feel like that education component, I mean, I've been in the industry for 11 years. I'm still learning things. We talk to our, linen company that we work with, and they'll talk about things that I've never even, I don't think of myself as a sheet expert, but I can tell you about how, something that's a 60-40 cotton polyester blend, might be different if it's woven all together and it's more inexpensive versus if the polyester synthetic yarn is on the inside and it's wrapped with cotton, because that means that if it gets soiled, the cotton is getting soiled and it'll release the dirt when you wash it, aka stain resistant, stain release sheets. Like, that is something that like I could have never even imagined existed. And all the little things too, not having hem lines so that you can put the fitted sheets on both directions so that there's no like, well, the tag is up over here instead of over there, or having the color coded thread line on the inside so that your cleaning crew can tell like queens and kings and twins apart from each other, and you know what to replace and they know what to grab from inventory and they're not shoving things away in closets, or knowing that you can order case packs of certain things instead of ordering, like, that was such a breakthrough for me when I realized, I don't have to order like the 2 pillowcases and then the flat and fitted and order like 20 of those and then break them up. And I was like, oh wait, like I can order a box of 24 flat sheets because those what I want. Or I can order a box of 72 pillowcases because that's where the mascara is going. And, well, mascara, how do you stop that? Makeup towels. Like, there is such a long line of education that we are fortunate enough to be able to try to help this industry and help people succeed in their businesses, to be able to compete with not just hotels that have those standards and that's what people expect when they show up, but also some of the biggest players in the space. They've figured this out, and we're unlocking deals for them and also deals for us overall as an industry.
Yeah. I'm suspecting also, like, from a deal perspective, there's great economies of scale doing it the way that you do it, and that's probably the kind of the origin behind GPO in the first place. Is that you're now bringing you have significantly more buying power now than an individual consumer could possibly do.
Yeah, I mean, we've done hundreds of millions of dollars through our GPO, which we're really excited about. But it doesn't mean that somebody that joins has to buy, 25 dishwashers to get a discount. We partner with Lowe's so that you get better than your Lowe's Pro pricing on one. Or we'll partner with Amazon or Samsung or GE or Schlage or Yale or any of these companies, so that you can buy directly from them or buy certain things at a discount. And like we really take a lot of pride in helping get people samples, educating them on like what the right things are, and talking through like operations and systems to help people run better businesses.
Yeah. As you think through kind of like building out Host GPO, it's been number of years now, and it's gone through many different generations and many different evolutions. What's been some of the hardest learnings that you had to do kind of along each milestone?
Yeah, there have been a ton of them. I would say the biggest one, the albatross, has been the building of the ordering portal and trying to help people figure out how people want to place the orders. And so what it used to be, for any Host GPO members who are listening and have been with us for 5 years, they'll remember it used to be, do you want to purchase a couch or do you want to purchase a mattress? Email us with, type out what you want, type out the SKUs. Here's a spreadsheet, download it, fill out the SKUs that you want, type them in, put how many numbers, put the shipping address. We'll send you a quote in 48 hours. Like that's how it started. And slowly, we've worked on making the ordering portal better. And like, we're pulling in catalogs from Crate and Barrel and from Helix mattresses and linen companies and amenity companies and public goods. We're pulling all that in and making it shoppable in one place. But that has been a real challenge to iterate through and to understand what people want.
I'm guessing that there might be solutions already in this, because like there might be warehouses and resellers and all those things. And did you build it out yourself? Did you end up using an off-the-shelf platform, or vice versa, and had to learn the other way?
Yeah, it was a little bit of, from a technical perspective, it was a little bit of a mix. We did everything custom build at the beginning, and then we tried to find some off-the-rack, solutions that existed, and then just build custom integrations or custom on top of that. But we've gone through like so many iterations from like a tech perspective of how the platform works to get it to where it is today and like in the direction that it's going.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, we talked about this a little bit before the call, Jeff. Like, I come from the e-commerce world and quite a bit of time in logistics as well too, and that is not a fun operation. Like it's an orchestration more than anything else.
It is wild out there. I don't want to, we have a lot of vendor partners that we work with, like the suppliers, the other side of our site, and I don't want to throw any of them under the bus by name, but what I will say is we are making things accessible. For example, if you wanted to buy certain like soaps and shampoos from certain brands, like, we have everything from, Aesop to Malin and Getz to, Grown Alchemist, Aveda, Beekman, all the way down to like really entry level stuff like TerraPure and Infuse and, Public Goods, like all of those. Some of these companies operate and have operated for years logistically selling to hotels. And so what that means is when a hotel wants to buy something, they're usually buying $250,000 at a time, and they will send an email, start off a long, lengthy back and forth conversation. Some of them will even fax in an order, fax machine, an order in. And that's how orders are getting placed. And so we had to go to a lot of these brands and say, hey, we want to digitize what you're doing and we want to make it accessible to the short-term rental industry. And by the way, our members might want to buy 12 soaps and shampoos and ship them somewhere. And they're also going to want a 50-60% discount because together we create a lot of volume. But solving that problem and then ingesting the tracking and surfacing it and having all the uniform order history in one place, it's a decent amount of tech lift.
Yeah. I imagine like doing a handshake deal and said, hey, we would love to support you. We would love to have you in our catalog. And then finding out many, many weeks later that like, oh, this is how you want us to get the order in there. I imagine there's going to be a few of those cases where you walked into it. It made a lot of sense pencil wise, but operationally they just weren't set up to do so.
Totally. And it's one of the factors, and we're really picky about which vendors we work with. Like a big part of Host GPO is we don't want people to have decision fatigue. It is already, we have a list where we give it to everybody for free. There's like 650 something items that you need to set up a vacation rental from the ground up of everything. And that's a lot of decisions to make. And so what we do is we'll partner with one luxury, this company, one mid-level furniture company, one or two basic entry-level furniture companies. And those are companies that we have vetted that not only make the ordering process relatively easy and as good as it can be, but they're willing to work on these solutions together. And in our opinion, we test the products and they're the right products for the space. So we curate the assortment of vendors that we work with, but that is a part of it. Like we've had to say no to working with vendors who don't want to be flexible. And they're like, no, we only want to work with companies if they call in and talk to one of our reps and get on the phone with them. And that's not how people operate, and that's not how our businesses operate. So we're very cautious about who we partner with.
Yeah. Did you take on some partnerships where you're like, this was the wrong one, but you're just growing out and you're like, I have to do this?
Totally.
And then over time, my guess is that your quality standards has risen to where like, nope, actually like your product quality doesn't meet the standard or your operational quality doesn't meet our standard. Like we just can't do it now. And then, which is something that you couldn't say in the very beginning, in those beginning years when you're starting this and you need that logo or you need that product in there.
100%. And I think that we learned the hard way. So we partner with a lot of physical goods, mattresses, rugs, art decor, like all that kind of stuff. But we also have some service partners. And so like through Host GPO, you get a free Instacart business account and you get a discount with DirecTV if you're going to put a package together for your homes. But we also have tried to partner with national services. And so Host GPO members that have been around for a couple of years will remember 3-4 years ago when we launched a pest control discount. And we worked with a national pest control company to say like, hey, like if you're going to get pest control for your property and you're going to set it up for, you have 40 properties and you need routine spraying, like here's a discount for 40% on that from the national account level. The problem is that we had to pull it because the program was great, but it was really a kind of a franchise of pest control companies. And you could live in Palm Springs and you could have the best pest control guy, but you could be living in, Chicago or wherever and Florida, and the pest control in that area wasn't good. And we didn't think that spoke to our brand standard for recommending it. And so, we decided to pull it overall. But like that was something we didn't have the luxury of doing earlier that we're really cautious of now.
Yeah. So your origin was in kind of the short-term rental side of things. And I'm curious whether or not you have any hotels, boutique hotels, or even larger ones that are using you, and whether or not that's a core focus of your growth.
Yeah, absolutely. We have set up, I don't know if it's over 100, but we've set up a decent number of boutique hotels, anything 12 to 60, 70 properties or units. And our team is and are experts at doing it. We'll do ground up furniture, ground up supplies, help work with interior designers who are staffed on those projects. We have a free interior design program, which is pretty cool for smaller projects or medium-sized projects, where we'll work with the brands and like get a design in front of you, which is really awesome. But we've done boutique hotels, we've done some corporate housing, so like midterm stays, midterm rentals, anything that is like a furnished property, we've kind of started dabbling into. But short-term rentals is really our roots.
Nice. Talk to me a little bit about kind of your early days. Right before the call, we talked a little bit about when you were a property manager and some of the things that you invested into. And we were talking about some of the stories and how you're able to really capture the right set of audiences specifically for direct bookings. Like you had a very different way of approaching direct bookings than the traditional, let's go and do email marketing and social media and all those things. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, it was a different time and we had a different business. So what I'll say about, us is 2015, 2016, 2017, we were not brand forward as a company. Like we had properties that were luxury, we had cabins, we had apartments, we had studios, we had, homes. And so we didn't have one brand that was our public facing brand across the board. What we did have was a bunch of unique properties that were good fits for certain things. And what I'll say in our direct booking strategy for our property management company was we really looked at it as, well, we can't really buy ads sending people to our brand because it's not one thing. But where are we going to find people for these specific homes? And, we learned a little bit from who was booking the homes, and we kind of took that knowledge to say, okay, how do we get more of these people? And so an example of that is we were in Los Angeles. A lot of our homes were in Southern California, but we had a pretty heavy concentration in Los Angeles, which meant that Los Angeles, Hollywood, people wanted to book for commercials, they wanted to book for movies, they wanted to book for whatever. And we started getting some inbound, a little trickling of inbound, saying, hey, is this home available? We're filming a commercial for, the shoe company and this home would be perfect. This backyard would be great. And that kind of sparked, we booked one, and that was like, oh, this is a direct booking channel for us. Like bookings for commercial shoots and for movies or whatever else it is in Los Angeles, that's a real channel. And so we proactively reached out to Warner Brothers. We had a relationship with Netflix. We had a relationship with different industries because we had properties that were close to their offices or that were good fits for what they were doing. And then all of a sudden, when the people, there were individuals at the company that were in charge of finding properties, and they would email us at the beginning of a search and say, hey, you have a couple hundred properties. Do you have anything that would fit this criteria? And that was our direct booking channel. It was them emailing us and asking, because we had built relationships, where we could put them. And those bookings we filmed a major motion picture in one of our properties. I don't know if you ever saw A Marriage Story with Adam Driver.
I haven't.
Okay, he won. I think he won an award, an Oscar for it, and it was a great movie. But his apartment in the movie was one of our units, and it was like a really creative use where they took this one apartment, they made it his apartment in the movie, redid it a little bit and put some new furniture in, and then they rented the rest of the building. And rather than park 20 trailers outside and do like hair and makeup and sound and directors and this and have all these trailers outside, they just emptied all the units and put everybody in different units in this one building to film this movie for a month. And that revenue from that booking paid for, it was like 8-9 months of our year paid for with one booking, which was amazing. So, those types of things, or like we were getting a lot of bookings near UCLA for our properties in Westwood. And, it was like, teachers coming with their families to teach in different, groups. And so what do? We like went to UCLA and we talked to the different, we reached out to the different departments and said, hey, by the way, if you have any adjunct faculty, students, or people who need homes, like reach out to us directly. We have a lot of homes in this area. And like that became a channel for us. So it was really grassroots, and it was really, need based. But, if you're near a big hospital and and there's outpatients, or you're near a school, it's one thing to say, we do a lot of nurse bookings, or we do a lot of whatever. It's another thing to say, I have a property that's really close to this thing. I'm going to go talk to them, like about building a relationship. So that worked really well for us.
Yeah, I have something similar. I have one of my Gatlinburg properties. I didn't know this when I bought this, but it's about 3-minute drive from one of the biggest stadiums in Tennessee that does competitive sports. And so we found out that they actually will have housing associations for when coaches need to basically fill their entire team and get them housed. And so we're listed on with kind of in their directory there, where if someone is going into competing for some competition, they can actually book with us, and we give them a small cut, and it's enormously well. Like, we are probably the closest cabin to that stadium. And had we not done that local search and figure out, like, we didn't really know it when we bought the property, and we started getting people like multi-families. They were asking us like, "Hey, we're competing at this place. Can we have some friend over?" And we just started hearing. We started hearing this more and more. Yeah,
you have to ask. You have to ask, and you have to read. And like that's one of those things where, I'm very, very a big advocate of AI in general. Like, so aggressively pro, but this is one of those things where, like, all right, if you're just going to have a chatbot do all your messaging and you're not going to look at what people are saying, you might miss things like this. We had a similar one where one of our large homes was really close to the Lakers practice facility. And whenever they were working out new players or doing summer workouts or whatever, I probably had, I don't know, a dozen basketball players at some point or other stay in this house because it was like 5 minutes away from the practice facility, and it was like perfect for what they needed. And they just started calling us directly. Like it was that kind of a relationship. And if you're not asking like, hey, who's staying here, or looking or reading, to your point, you're going to miss it.
Yeah. That's amazing. Gosh, I've learned so much about like different tactics going on this call. And I think one thing that I learned about you, Jeff, is that you have this kind of mind to find these opportunities for things that are almost non-linear or non-status quo for things. Like, I wouldn't have gone to IKEA and bought a truckload and 48 carts of things. Or probably even before that, like identifying that, like, hey, there's this property across the street. There's this new concept called arbitrage. Can I actually pick up that home, rent out for a few periods, and then give it back to them? Like, that's a unique, and it's only sustainable to some point there. But
totally.
it was that stepping stone that allowed you to do that next thing.
100%. I really, I don't want to say pride myself on it, but it is like it's a big part of my personality where I refuse to accept that things are a certain way until you try it out. Like, solve your own problems, try to figure it out. Like, just because this is a social norm or because this is the way that things are doesn't mean it's the way they have to be. And like, I think that solutioning mindset and problem solving mindset is, I mean, it's why I love being a lawyer, candidly, because I actually really did like it. And it was that type of problem solving where you're constantly thinking like, well, like, is this the only way, or what else can we think about? It's that same itch that gets scratched when you're trying to think of, I don't know, how do you furnish 16 apartments overnight, or 28 bedrooms, or wherever it was. What is the fastest way? What is the longest tent in the pole in the tent, and kind of how do you solve your own problem?
Yeah, I love that. Jeff, I think that's a kind of good segue to the last section of the show, where I asked you 3 questions. First question: what's been a book that has inspired you and kind of made an impact on your life?
Yeah, I will always recommend and shout out this book, which is it's called "This Is Not a T-Shirt," and it's by Bobby Hundreds, and it is a phenomenal book. I have the pleasure and fortune of knowing Bobby and having a chance to watch his journey building a clothing and fashion company. But this book is great for if you are a founder or you're somebody who is building something. He really talks through in a very authentic way what his journey to building up this company was, and focuses on the fact that people aren't, I'm not giving anything away, but it's really about community building, right? It's not, people aren't just buying a t-shirt, right? They want to be a part of a community. And what does that really mean? And he talks about building the Hundreds and as a clothing brand. And I just think it's a phenomenal, quick read. And it's just really insightful to see somebody talk about the inner workings behind the scene of like how things really happen in their business. It's very authentic.
Awesome. That sounds, you're intriguing me to pick that one up. I have a ton of partial books that I'm in the middle of reading. And
it's a quick read, but it's a good one.
Yeah. I think the unfortunate thing for this podcast is I ask that question every single time and I always get inspired and I end up causing this loop of not finishing a book and then buying another book. And I've now kind of learned that like, okay, maybe I should just do Audible and consume a lot of this on Audible.
You got to do a little bit of both. I've started mixing, which is a really terrible thing where like I'll read 4 chapters and then I'll listen to like another 5 and then I'll read the next 3. So, got to get it however you can.
Yeah. Awesome. Jeff, what's second question? What's one piece of mindset advice that you would give to someone that's starting something completely new? I'm excited about this one for you.
I would say, and by this you mean like starting a new business or just starting anything new?
It can be either. I mean, if you want, you can go into like parenthood and being a new parent and how you tackle that. But
yeah, all right. I'll keep it business oriented. I would say a question that does not get asked enough, and I really, really believe it is a threshold question for what you are solving. And when you're starting your business are you solving a problem or are you solving an inconvenience? And I think that a lot of people have great ideas, but they attack them without thinking through that question. And I've also started a lot of businesses other than Host GPO. I had a doggy daycare. I had a like pharmaceutical consulting company that I was a part of, and all these other businesses. But I think when you're starting something, you have to think through, one, you have to be okay with failing, which is just a part of this. But you have to also think through, is this a problem that people are having that they need my solution for? Or is this an inconvenience that I am helping people with? Because that question is a preliminary question to determine which direction you should go. Not just should you do it or not. There are a lot of things out there that are convenience products or convenience solutions, and those deserve a place. But I think people often get mixed up by going all in on trying to solve an inconvenience or going half in on trying to solve a problem. And I think that thinking through like what your business is a solution for helps you determine, like, do I want to raise money for this? Do I want to like go full time into this? Is this an inconvenience thing where I should just kind of let it grow on its own organically? And I think that is a real question for founders to think through.
Yeah. Was it are you there's another saying about like, do you have a painkiller or a vitamin? And it's almost like a lot of folks are focusing on the vitamin side of things, but
sure,
you really should be focusing on the kind of painkiller side.
Yeah.
Awesome. Last question, Jeff. What's one piece of tactical advice that someone can put into practice today to either get started on direct bookings or amplify their direct bookings?
I mean, I think that we uncovered one here today together, which I wouldn't even have said before as a tactic, but I would think that reading through honestly, you can even have AI do it and put together, reading through the messaging to figure out why people are coming to stay at your properties and learning from that which direction to go. Whether that's, hey, like I somehow got 14 nurses and I didn't even know that because I haven't been reading the messages, but they're preliminary messages, talking about being a nurse. Or maybe you're at an intake question like, hey, really excited to host you. What are you in town for? Also, here are the instructions and what's going to happen. And pulling that data from them, because I think that one of the best ways to learn who to market to or who to reach out to or who to create a relationship with is from who's actually staying there. And I don't think that you need to custom build places out of the gate for one demographic, but I think that if you're not iterating on your place and thinking through, well, who is currently here and what are they doing and can I find more of these people, you're missing out.
Yeah. And I think that to the point is like the reason why like our AI site editor actually will scan through all the reviews, because that is one of the data points. Like, yes, we want to know how you describe your properties. We want to know what people are searching for on Google, on ChatGPT, but we also want to hear like who's staying at your property, what they like, why did they choose your place over others. And yeah, like we've learned many iterations about like what are the types of information that you need to put as an input on how you market yourself.
100%. And that doesn't just start. I think people think that you can just have to manifest and create this whole thing from the ground up and know exactly how it's going to perform and what it's going to do. And like, yes, you should think through those things and be intentional, and you can probably get pretty close. But if you really want to get like from good to great, that requires taking a hard look at the information in front of you and constantly pivoting and readjusting.
Yeah. Awesome. Jeff, it was a huge pleasure to have you on here. And I'm so happy to like go down the little rabbit holes that we went kind of throughout the entire conversation. I appreciate you sharing really just your experience and why you chose to go down this path the way you did. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed being here and appreciate you taking the time to talk about this and help educate the industry overall. I think it's I'm a big advocate for people doing podcasts, doing educational content like this. So I think rising tide lift the whole industry up. It makes everybody's properties better and makes this industry stronger. So thanks for what you're doing.
Yeah, awesome. Where can folks find out more about you? How can they keep in touch with you?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so I would say like that's a big one for me. Otherwise, host GPO, HOST GPO on like all social media things, Instagram, Facebook, all the rest of it.
You own that brand, you own that name, everything.
It's all over. It's all us. But those are the best ways. Or feel free to reach out if you have a question or want to chat. Always happy to connect with people and happy to help people out on their journeys.
Yeah, and you're going to be hosting your annual pickleball competition at Verma, right?
Yeah, so the VRMA this year, international VRMA in Nashville, which I think is the first week of October. This is our third annual pickleball tournament, and if you're coming to Verma, if you're not coming to Verma, you should be. If you're coming to Verma, it's a couple thousand people. Great to connect with other operators, but if you're there. On the first day of the registration and the afternoon before the registration, we do a pickleball tournament where all of the proceeds from the tournament go to short-term rental advocacy, the VRMA Advocacy Fund, and to Rent Responsibly, they do a phenomenal job of advocating for fair legislation and making sure that the hotel lobbies aren't having their way with our regulations. So it's an important thing for the industry as well, and we love doing it. So that'll be happening, and I'll be there. Pickleball paddle in hand.
Yeah. If I was a pickleball player, I would join in on that. But I will definitely be there just to even watch.
All levels are welcome, and there's a lot of beer usually too. So if you're into that, there's some of that for you.
There's something about embarrassing myself in front of all of my peers.
I'm gonna make sure you play. You're gonna be on my team, so
okay.
We'll have some.
We'll
fun.
Make it happen then.
Awesome,
Jeff. Till next time. See ya.
All right. Take care.